Billy Joe Saunders is a victim. I'm talking in terms of him being a boxer. He's been complaining that if he fights Canelo, that the judging needs to be fair. He's been saying this for a few years. Now, he said he wanted a British judge there. That was one of his conditions, but apparently they're not going for that. I don't know if it's going to be all Americans or maybe Mexicans and Americans or maybe all Mexicans. I'm not sure. But who's to say you get a British judge that the British judge votes for you just because you're British as well? So, unless he has any proof that there's some corruption at hand, don't you just get on with it? You see, there's no way Billy Joe could lose this fight, just like his buddy Tyson Fury, and it's not someone else's fault. And they're going to let us know before they go in the ring that somebody or a group of people were conspiring against them. He apparently also complained about his purse, that he negotiated the purse on the basis that there's not going to be no crowds in the arena. I'm sure Canelo's last two fights against Yildirim and Callum Smith, there was crowds there. And look, go talk to the person who negotiated your purse. Or is Billy saying Eddie handed him a contract and he just signed it? Well, I don't believe that. I'm sure he had some representation. And, you know, all this suggestion that Eddie wants Canelo to win, well, so what? You've got Tyson Fury cheering you on, saying you're going to knock out Canelo. What more do you need? Remember, he got involved in the Nick Blackwell Eubank Jr. fight and brought a whole load of people, him and Tyson Fury, with flags and belts. You know what I mean? Yeah, come on, Nick, beat him up, all that shit there. Listen, victim, just get on with it, man. If you're such a great fighter, like you've been telling us for the last 10 years, yeah, you shouldn't worry about the scorecards until the scorecards come up and there's something to talk about. You shouldn't worry about Eddie Hearn favoring Canelo over you until you can prove there's some corruption going on between Eddie and Canelo that would stop Billy from winning, yeah? Well, if Billy's worried about support for the Canelo fight, he's definitely got the anti-Eddie Hearn crowd behind him now. They love this, you know. All of a sudden, they're going to throw it straight to Eddie if Billy loses. Because, you know, let me not say nothing about them because they get touchy on this. they get touchy. But then again, didn't Billy and his dad blame Eddie for the fight with Andrade falling through? Even though it was Billy who had the substances in his body that got him banned. But it was Eddie's fault somehow. How much do you want to bet that Billy, his fan base, if they lose this fight, are going to kick up a whole lot of dust, make a whole lot of noise. There's going to be a whole load of people to blame outside Billy and his team. How much do you want to bet? Billy's complaining that Eddie Hearn is making plans assuming Canelo will beat him on May the 8th. Well, that's what you do when you have someone like Canelo. I don't know if he's pound for pound the best, but he's one of the biggest names in boxing. The options for Canelo mean that the promoter or the management have to be making moves ahead of what he's doing now. Billy has been stop, start, stop, start. He's not where Canelo is. Eddie did his job. He's talked up Billy as well. He said Billy can win the fight if he's at his best. And he's delivered the fight. What more does he need? Billy hasn't been consistent for his career. It's up to him to change Eddie Hearn's perception. And then Eddie Hearn will work harder for him. Or he can win the fight, and if his contract's up with Eddie, he can go elsewhere. He can go somewhere else. Billy hasn't been easy to work with. Canelo is basically easy to work with. He fought Callum Smith late last year. He fought Yildirim this year. And now he's fighting Canelo. And next he wants Caleb Plant. That's the fight Eddie, I'm assuming, is negotiating, is the Caleb Plant fight. Caleb Plant is not going to fight Billy if Billy wins. I don't think he is. He wants to fight Canelo if Caleb wants it. Eddie delivered the fight. He's done his job. If he wants Eddie to hold his hand in the ring, then you're in the wrong business. Frank Warren was clearly in Daniel Dubois' corner when he fought Joe Joyce, even though Joyce is signed to Frank as well. I'm sure Frank was making plans for Daniel ahead of the fight. But I didn't hear Joe crying. Yo, I got the fight. That's all I need.
I don't need nobody to give me a damn thing. Just open up the door and I get it myself.
I didn't hear Joe crying that Frank thinks Daniel's the golden boy and he doesn't want me to win. I didn't hear that nonsense from Joe Joyce. And if anybody knows or should know that their relationship with their promoter is all about business is Billy Joe and Eddie. Look at some of the stuff that Billy Joe's dad said about Eddie before and some of the stuff Billy was saying about Eddie. Ain't no love lost. Billy better handle his business because Canelo's planning to handle this. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, look at all the things he's bringing up. He's bringing up his purse. He's bringing up judges. What's the one thing, if you were going to complain about fighting Canelo in America, what would be the first thing you worry about if you was a boxer? I'd bring up PEDs. I'd be demanding that Eddie puts in place stringent, strict testing for Canelo and myself if I was Billy. But then again, Billy would look like a bit of a hypocrite, wouldn't he? I mean, because Canelo's a cheat and he's a cheat. Bob Arum, he says the Fury-Joshua fight likely lands in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia this summer. The fight will be delivered to an American audience via ESPN pay-per-view. Traditional pay-per-view outlets will be part of it like DirecTV, In Demand, etc. Because of the time differences between Saudi and the States, the telecast would begin in the late afternoon Eastern time, and it would be a normal pay-per-view here in the States is what Bob Arum said. Anthony Joshua's last 4 fights have been on the streaming service DAZN, but this will not be the case for the Tyson Fury fight. DAZN will show the fight, but in different territories outside of the UK and the US. All the other territories are good to go, Italy, Canada, wherever you can get DAZN, you'll see that fight. In the United Kingdom, Arum said it will be pay-per-view but with a twist. He said the big market for the fight is in the UK, where everybody is talking it will do 3 million homes. The broadcasting will be split between Sky and BT. Both will have it on pay-per-view. Sky Sports is where Joshua has an exclusive deal for his fights in the United Kingdom. Fury, his fights in the United Kingdom are on BT, and this will be BT's biggest numbers for a fight ever, even if they have to share the card with Sky. They will have had nothing to compete with this. As for the price points, nothing has been decided in either the UK or America. Arum said he has no idea. He'll work it out with ESPN, with In Demand. Eddie Hearn has to be consulted. It has to be a price that everyone agrees to. Arum said the site for the fight will likely be a new indoor stadium in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, although the precise location has not been yet decided and no paperwork is yet finalized for the site deal. With the weather typically at 80 and 100 degrees, it's not feasible to have the fight outside. It's just too hot. Arum said they have site deal contracts that they are now marking up and so forth. It's a big step. We're just doing the paperwork now with the Saudis. Arum has long been skeptical of offers from overseas, typically telling reporters when the topic is broached about a major fight that I'm not packing my bags yet. Obviously, Bob wants to know if the money is legit. He wants to see it in that escrow. But things have changed since Bob had that frame of mind. When he found out the Saudis were involved, he said he's getting ready to pack his bags. He said yes. So it looks like the likes of Qatar, Uzbekistan, Russia, America, and the United Kingdom, they wanted to do it at Wembley. They're out of the running. Eddie Hearn, he said the dates are either July the 24th, July the 31st, or August the 7th. The specific date and location is up to the Saudi Arabian investors. The two camps signed contracts for the fight in mid-March, but it was contingent on securing a site deal that satisfied both sides within 30 days. Although the 30-day window is up, both sides are in agreement on the Saudi Arabian site deal, is what Bob Arum said. So now it's not only Eddie talking, we got Bob talking, enthusiastic, bright, sprightly, and positive. That's good. 2-fight deal, 50-50 split of the revenue for the first fight, with the rematch which is supposed to take place near the end of the year being 60-40 in favor of the winner of the first fight. If it lands in Jeddah, this will be the second major fight they've had there. Callum Smith, he knocked out George Groves to win the WBA super middleweight title in the World Boxing Super Series tournament at the King Abdullah Sports City in Jeddah. This news is courtesy of Boxing Scene and Dan Raphael. Just watched a high-speed chess match between Tony Harrison and Bryant Perella. I actually enjoyed it. I could only see the highlights. Couldn't find the full fight anywhere. I've been looking for it since Saturday. Southpaw Perella, he made it hard for Harrison to do his boxing thing, and Harrison had to go looking for him. Harrison showed that he can go looking for his opponents against Charlo, but this was a little different. Unlike Charlo, Perella can fight off the back foot effectively. He's got quick feet and can make punches just miss, and whatever he does take, he doesn't normally take flush. Harrison did some good work, especially in round 6. With the fight in the balance, Perella had to take the fight to Harrison. Lennox Lewis said Harrison prefers that, and yes, he does prefer that. Some educated jabs and right crosses, left crosses, because Perella's a southpaw, thrown in there. And I enjoyed it, man. Some people like the all-out brawls and stuff, you know, that's what makes a brilliant fight for them. And that's fair enough, but I enjoyed the brawls as well. But this type of fight I like as well. The question is, though, what does Harrison have left in the tank if he can only draw with this guy who in his last fight was knocked out by Abel Ramos at 147 and was stopped by Yordenis Ugas, who's not a huge puncher at the welterweight limit as well. He's lost to Louis Collazo in 2018. I think we know Harrison's strengths and his weaknesses, and there's not going to be much that changes about that. Sometimes a fighter who hasn't shone and wasn't expected to do well can produce in a fight like this. His styles make fights. Harrison, a little rusty perhaps, needs to get more active, but you could say the same for Perella. He hasn't fought since early February last year. Harrison hasn't fought since December 2019, when after building up a big points lead against Charlo, he was stopped in the 11th. BoxRec is a very useful tool, but you know what would be interesting if you was to look at some of Bryant Perella's losses? I bet you any money, at least one of them or two of them, he was doing pretty well in them. And maybe they weren't concussive stoppages. It's just where he ran out of ambition, maybe ran out of gas, which is his fault. Let's get that straight. And I'm not saying that is the case because I've never seen him fight before. But sometimes you can get deceived by seeing someone's record. Oh, they lost to that guy, they got stopped by that guy. You can get a little deceived. Not all stoppages are the same. Not all points losses are the same. Okay, done a bit of research. So Majidov had a great tournament to win that world championship when I think about it. He stopped one of his opponents, and he also stopped Erislandi Savon. Then he beat Anthony Joshua on a very narrow decision in the final in Azerbaijan, which is for all intents and purposes Russia. Look, I'm not great on geography, so I know getting the exact location is important to you. It's important to me too, but it was more or less his hometown. Great tournament. That's 10 years back now. He would have been 24. The next year, he attempts to win Olympic gold. This time it's in Anthony Joshua's backyard in the United Kingdom. Joshua got a fortunate decision against Erislandi Savon. And apart from that, there were some hard-fought wins, but he won everything legitimately apart from that fight there. Majidov was on his way to beating Roberto Caramel, and he was leading, but the Italian fought back and edged it 13-12 in the semi-final to take the bronze medal. Camarel lost a hard-fought final to Anthony Joshua. Joshua is now gold medalist. AJ would have been around 21 at this time here. He turned pro next year in 2013. Despite not having an extensive amateur career, this was just the right time for Joshua. For whatever reason, Majidov stayed amateur till around 2017, the same year which he won the World Championships for the third time. So, a very accomplished amateur boxer. Very accomplished. But he's 4 years older than AJ. Did he just leave it too long to turn pro? His body's breaking down on him now. Didn't look in the best shape. Not a bodybuilding competition, I repeat, but still didn't look in the best shape. He turned pro in 2019. He's now 34 years of age. After 3 relatively easy wins, Ed Fountain, Tom Little, Salvat Delgado, He was pitched in today against Andreas FEDOSOV. This was a dangerous match. FEDOSOV got some solid wins against the likes of Donovan Dennis. Donovan's not a bad fighter. Not great, not bad. He also beat Joey Dawejko in his last fight before this. Lenroy Thomas stopped Lenroy. Even veterans like Maurice Harris, way past his best, but it's there. You know what I mean? That was in 2014. Darnell Wilson, very good cruiserweight, very tough guy. Lost on a retirement stoppage to Bryant Jennings, did FEDOSOV. A cut. Now, Bryant comprehensively outboxed him. I remember watching it. But it wasn't like he was off his feet or in any severe distress or anything like that. He was just outboxed. And Bryant fought to a very carefully executed game plan. No unnecessary chances were taken. Whatever Majidov's reputation was as an amateur, as Lennox Lewis told Anthony Joshua years back, take that, fold it up, and put it away somewhere, because you got to start all again. And 32 fights, pro fights, yeah, only stopped once by Bryant Jennings on a cut. Before that, lost a split decision to Lance Whitaker, who wasn't a great fighter, in all truth. He's one of the heavyweights America has produced in probably their weakest period of producing heavyweights, Deontay Wilder aside, and Andy Ruiz. Lost a split decision to him, but Lance was a big guy, strong, and experienced. The other one he lost was in Russia against Mileko, whoever he is, a 6-rounder in 2013. This was very ambitious matchmaking. Now, in my opinion, can't be 100% correct. I don't have all the facts, but I don't need to be 100% correct to assert my opinion. I believe the matchmaking may have let Majidov down. The Matchroom matchmakers. You can give someone like AJ a FEDOSOV in his 4th fight, even though FEDOSOV is way more experienced. Let's say AJ was in his 4th fight, FEDOSOV 32 fights, 26 stoppages, a lot of stoppages, 3 losses, 1 a 6-rounder, 1 a cut eye stoppage. The reason I say you can give AJ an opponent like that is because AJ picked up the amateur game pretty quick. Even the coach who was handling him and Fury said AJ picked it up quicker. He just picked it up quicker. AJ trains meticulously and works at his game tirelessly. And he also picked up the pro game very quickly. Yeah? So you can fast track the Anthony Joshuas. But this guy here, I want to know what he was doing in between his last amateur fights in 2017 and the time he turned pro in 2019. I can't find no World Series of Boxing fights of his anywhere, even though on his amateur box record it says World Series of Boxing. There was no 5-rounders there. They were all 3-round amateur fights. And I couldn't find anything. What was he doing in that time? Was he training? Because he looked a little fleshy. It's not a bodybuilding contest or anything like that. You see, this is a specialist weight class. Some guys are naturally strong. Other guys in this weight class need a whole lot of strength and conditioning, a whole load. Because the power in the punches you have to take means your body has to be developed correctly. All the leaning and pushing that heavyweights do, you've got to be right physically. You have to be right physically. Super heavyweight boxing in the amateurs is not the same as heavyweight boxing in the pros. Your neck, your shoulders, and your core, you've got to be able to absorb horribly heavy shots. And you've got to get used to it. And no one ever likes it, but you've got to take the shots like it's an occupational hazard and move on with what you have to do and execute your game plan. Tony Yoka, Olympic gold medalist 2016, he got flattened in the amateurs. I'm talking knocked out bad by Erislandy Savon, same guy who Majidov stopped in the amateurs, and AJ controversially scraped past in the Olympics. He flattened Tony Yoka. But that was 10 years ago. And he's 28, which is 6 years younger than Majidov. And as you can see, they're taking their time with Tony Yoka. So he's had a little time to mature since that happened. But they're making sure they can cut out any defensive flaws he can so they don't get to that chin that easy. And hopefully, he's putting the hard work in the gym to try and build the neck, the back muscles required to help him absorb a punch better. So far, he hasn't really showed any weakness around the chin. And he's fought a few decent punches, like Dimitrenko has got a decent KO percentage. Christian Hammer, decent KO percentage, knocked out David Price, but who hasn't? Dave Allen's got 15 stoppages and 18 wins, but he didn't really catch Tony with anything. And I think Tony's just a better defensive boxer than Majidov. He's taller, he can hide his chin a little better, at least at this level he's fighting at. It's basically hard to develop heavyweights. Let me not go around the houses too much. It's basically very hard to develop heavyweights. It really is. It's hard to coordinate them to fight 6, 8, 10, 12 rounds because they're so big. Certain moves that a middleweight or a welterweight can pick up quicker just through sheer athleticism more than boxing ability. It takes a heavyweight a little more time to get the coordination down because they're slower and have to work really hard at their technique. Funnily enough, it said that Majidov only had 7 stoppages as an amateur. He only had 55 bouts as an amateur, if that's correct. Fedosov was actually staggered in the short time the bout lasted. He was actually staggered and he was getting the worst of it. Some really good left hand work from Majidov. And Majidov probably thought, okay, this is going to be relatively routine. And as soon as he took his eye off the ball, that right cross went in and it dropped him. And it looks like he's done severe damage to his leg on the fall. He got back up, tried to continue. Couple more punches went in, he went down again in obvious trouble with that leg. Ligaments or a break or whatever it was, because he landed with that right leg folding underneath his body weight. It must have been, ugh. Now listen to what I'm saying. I don't think I would actually give Anthony Joshua Fedosov in his 3rd or 4th fight. I'm saying he could cope with it, but I actually wouldn't give it to him. I guess they were looking to fast track Majidov because he's 34. But in all truth, he should have turned pro after he won the World Championships. Maybe after he got the bronze in 2012. He should have turned pro after that, but he obviously wanted to carry on. I don't know what happened to the 2016 Olympics. Was he in that? You see, they're going to say, oh, if it wasn't for the leg, he would have went on to win. I'm not sure about that because the right hand that caught him hurt him. He was on his way down because he was chinned. Whatever happened after, happened after. And this guy lost in 1 round. And if this is ligament trouble at 34 years of age, I don't know. We'll have to wait for a prognosis on what the injuries are and how long they're likely to heal. Fedosov, he should be asking Eddie, is it winner stays on? He's not signed to Matchroom as far as I know, but Majidov was signed to Eddie Hearn. Fedosov would definitely be open to a rematch because he's a tough guy. He's not going to say, oh, I'm going to try and protect my win and hold out for as much as I can. He'd be open to the idea of fighting Majidov again. Wouldn't bother him. But in all truth, would you just put Majidov in again with this guy? I don't know if I would. I'd leave it. I would leave it. I mean, the first thing they need to do is rehabilitate and heal up from them injuries, which look pretty bad. They shouldn't even be thinking of a Fedosov rematch right now. Anyway, great win for Fedosov. Majidov, when they put the stretcher in the ring, he gestured by waving his hand to say, I don't want it, take it away. In the end, he was stretchered out. Them injuries are severe. In fact, it's a shame that his cornerman didn't get the heads up that he injured his leg on the first knockdown because it looks like he could have done more damage to them injuries after going down again for the 2nd time. Matchroom, Team Majidov, and more importantly Majidov as an individual, perhaps they overlooked Andrei Fedosov and perhaps left it a little too late, or maybe way too late to turn pro. Is he going to be another Jorge Gonzalez? Very successful amateur, turned pro in the 90s, a Cuban. Riddick Bowe knocked him out, Tim Witherspoon knocked him out, and someone else got him as well. In fact, a lot of people got him. He was around 27 when he turned pro, so not as old as Majidov. Like, they're trying to say, oh, if it wasn't for the leg injury, that Majidov would have won. Well, who caused the leg injury? Fedosov and his right hand. That his upper body collapsed onto his leg and broke it. If it was a weaker punch, that didn't scramble his senses, that wouldn't have happened. So, all credit to FEDOSOV. I'm not trying to stop anybody from trying to salvage some type of damage control on Majidov's loss. If it helps you sleep better, you know what I mean? Do what you gotta do. Do what you have to do.
Tell him why you mad, Dana. Tell him why you mad.
Ben Askren got knocked out by Jake Paul. It makes the UFC brand look bad, doesn't it? This YouTuber knocked out a UFC fighter. Not the best advertisement for UFC or MMA. Then when Askren got knocked out, Snoop Dogg was in the commentary saying, Dana, you owe me $2 million. So everybody's assuming that a bet was made, but Dana said no bet was made. It's illegal to make that kind of bet. I don't owe him any money. Now, Dana, this is where you came up bitch made. You came up really bitch made. A few UFC fighters have apparently put their name in the pot to fight Jake Paul. He's become a marked man. He's a target. The likes of Tyron Woodley, Daniel Cormier, they put their names in the hat, which has led Dana into this bitch-made tirade. Why don't you go fight a boxer? Why the fuck do these guys keep talking to UFC guys for? I'm going to have to slap them with a fucking legal letter. These fucking idiots. Go talk to fucking boxers. What are you doing? Now, what I believe he's talking about is the trademark. If Jake Paul, Snoop Dogg, or anyone connected with the Triller setup mention the word UFC or any UFC fighters, they can be liable to answer to the trademark description. Dana owes everything. UFC, the fighters, their wives. No, just joking. Because I know a lot of people used to do reviews, pre-fight and post-fight reviews on UFC cards and got strikes. The channel taken down. They didn't have no footage of the card or anything. And the channel got taken down because that's how UFC were flexing. And if you're going to do that, Dana, then you're it's trademark. It's that's some made shit. But I'm guessing UFC and WWE are probably looking at this Triller thing and saying, didn't see this coming. Because it's that sports entertainment angle, isn't it? So the numbers haven't been totaled up so far, but they're saying Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. And I am where his name is, not Aspirin. But it just makes the videos more fun for me to do. 1.6 million. $49 a pop. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, 1.6 million. $49 a pop. The difference is, although I didn't see the Mike Tyson card, it was sold on the back of Mike Tyson, the former undisputed champion, maybe the most popular boxer ever, Muhammad Ali included. I know some people ain't gonna want to hear that. And Roy Jones is a living legend himself. Now, from what I hear, they didn't have the concert vibe on the Tyson pay-per-view like they had on Jake Paul's pay-per-view, because you wouldn't need that with Mike Tyson. He doesn't need that to sell the event. Mike turn up and we're good. So we can attribute that 1.6 to Mike Tyson's star power. But Jake Paul, they're saying he done 1.6. Now, you could argue a lot of boxers who do huge numbers don't do the whole number themselves, because, you've got the undercard fights, and if you've got good undercard fights, it can help prop up the numbers. But Jake didn't really do 1.6, because I saw Ice Cube on there working, E40 Waters, for those that don't know. Too Short, aka Short Dog, he was in the house. And Snoop, they were working hard. Doja Cat was in there working hard. Justin Bieber was on there. So did Jake Paul really do 1.6? The event did 1.6. More than just saying, yeah, Jake Paul is this big pay-per-view guy. No disrespect to Regis Prograis and Steve Cunningham. But, they could have put a Twinkie cake versus one of Kell Brook's chocolate brownie and done more numbers than they could contribute to the card in terms of numbers. Not talking about their performances. They both fought very well. Yo, Red Catch, you must not be allowed to box on any syndicated network ever again. Unless you apologize and fess up that you faked that injury. You faked a way out of that fight. and give my man Regis Progress a stoppage. You must not be allowed to fight on any syndicated card again. You're a disgrace.
You're an embarrassment.
They're saying throw Jake Paul in there with a boxer, but I think people are missing the point. I mean, it's obvious if you put him in there with anyone ranked in the top 20 or 30, he'll lose. That's obvious. The point is to get somebody who doesn't come from the boxing world to challenge him. That's the whole point I think a lot of people are missing. You say put him in there with a boxer, so if we put him in there with someone who's washed up, what are you going to say? You're going to say, oh, well, he was washed up. But you said put him in there with a boxer. What does that mean? The whole pursuit and fun of this exercise is to find someone from an alternative background from boxing who can compete or beat Jake up. That's the whole point. Now, if you put Tyrone Woodley or Daniel Cormier in there with him, they're going to knock him out because the top UFC guys are probably very good strikers and probably know enough boxing that they'll damage Jake. But apparently, wasn't Ben Askren a champion at welterweight in MMA or UFC? Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, Triller score another big pay-per-view success. And big up Jake Paul too. I streamed the Triller card on Saturday. And being that I love hip-hop, Ice Cube to me is a top 10 all-time great MC. Snoop Dogg, who I wouldn't have in the top 10, is one of the best MCs when you're talking about the technical aspect of skill and delivery. He's one of the best ever. Anytime you hear Snoop live, he sounds like the record. Exactly like the record. The pitch, the timing, the mannerisms, you name it. Doja Cat is one of the more relevant pop artists out there right now. I didn't know who Justin Bieber was because he's grown up quite a lot. So I was wondering who it was, and I was thinking, oh, this is a bit lackluster. I mean, then someone told me it was Justin. I said, oh my days, Justin. But Triller have found a formula. They found a formula that works. It works for Jake Paul. Does it work for Regis Progress? Not so much Steve Cunningham because he's semi-retired, isn't he? He fought, is it Frank Mir? Who people were saying, he should have knocked Frank Mir out. You know how much Frank weighs? Big, strong Frank, you know what I mean? You think it's easy to knock out a man that size there? You go in the ring with Frank and see if you're knocking out Frank. Frank coming after you with his big self. You'll be on the move. Trust me. And you're not going to score a lot of punches because scoring a lot of punches might mean you have to set your feet. And you're not going to set your feet, bro, with him coming after you with that bulk. Trust me. So, points is good with Frank, bro. Points is good. 300-pound man coming after you. How much was Steve outweighed by? About 80 pounds. But does it work for Regis Progress? Will it work for Teofimo Lopez in the upcoming weeks or months or whenever he's going to fight next? I think they get lost in the show. Snoop Dogg is just too charismatic, too cool, too engaging. It's too, like, you can't share the bill with them guys and Ice Cube and stuff like that and people remember you. Is it really going to introduce them to a new audience? That audience there were probably hoping that Regis Progress's fight would finish soon so they could see Jake Paul or some more Doja Cat or some more rapping from Snoop and Cube, or perhaps they wanted to see Ric Flair. He was on there. They had Ric Flair on there. Real boxers like that, like Progress on the come up, they're going to get lost in the mix. And the same may happen to Teofimo Lopez, but he is getting paid. He probably may be a little more engaging than Regis to connect with the audience. Who knows? We have to give it a bit more time and see what the long game is with Triller. I'm not going to waste time and say, yeah, boxing needs to do this and these are the solutions, because boxing is just going to do boxing. It's just going to do what it does. I don't think there's much ground for so-called boxing fans to complain at Triller when you don't want to see certain fighters getting unifications for whatever reasons because you think they might beat the fighter you're a supporter of. So let Triller do its thing. You watch or you don't watch. It's not really boxing per se. It's sports entertainment, bottom line. So according to Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn has announced that he's won the purse bid for Filip HRGOVIC versus Michael Hunter. This is the final eliminator to decide who's going to fight Anthony Joshua for his IBF heavyweight title. The Sauerlands called for a purse bid after they failed to get this fight together. Well, who did Hunter have representing him? He's been a free agent since Eddie let him go. He's had one fight since then, which no one has spoke about, and I've seen no fight footage for it or anything. Eddie's kind of bailed him out and got him a payday here because he doesn't promote Michael Hunter. He doesn't promote HRGOVIC, as far as I know. Isn't he with the Sauerlands and Wasserman? We're supposed to have unlimited spending power, but yet Eddie came up with the bid. Perhaps he's going to have to save the Usyk Joe Joyce fight as well at this rate, because Usyk was talking big, like he's going to have the last say on the fight getting made. But that was weeks back and we haven't heard anything at all. It's all right saying you're a boss, but you've got to be able to show and prove. And you've got to be able to put events on. Too many boxers, like Usyk was the last guy I thought I'd hear, yeah, I'm bossing the show now, but he's not bossing anything. No disrespect to Frank Warren, but is he really doing Joe Joyce a service? You can't get this fight over the line? Glad this fight's happening, and I'm thinking about it now. We get this on DAZN. Or we should do anyway. There's a good chance we get it on DAZN. Let me not celebrate too early. I like this fight. You know why I like this fight? Because both Hunter and HRGOVIC have got fans who cap mad hard for them. I'm using the buzzwords now. I should take that out. I mean, I can't use words like cap. I can't pull it off. But, you know, both sets of fans would swear blind that these two guys are the best heavyweights out there right now. So it's going to be good to see who comes out on top. It really is. There's been a few Hunter fanboys and a few HRGOVIC fanboys who've done a lot of talking recently. A whole lot. Now, it's no big deal. Anyone can lose. And in a fight like this, we should be glad that we've got two guys at this level taking a fight like this.